Offensive ratings for the two teams. The Mavericks were 116.2 during the regular season, which is these are all according to Cleaning the Glass, so they're a little bit different than the official numbers. They take out garbage time, they take out heaves and different things like that. That's sort of like half-court heaves that you throw at the end of the shot clock or whatever. Mavericks were 8th in the regular season in offensive rating. The Clippers were 4th in the NBA in offensive rating. On defense, the Mavericks 22nd in the NBA on defense. The Clippers 9th in the NBA. But 2 points difference between the two of them. Between the Clippers defensive rating and the Mavericks defensive rating. So that 9 to 22 range is like real close together. The Clippers are 3.4 points away from 4th. And so they're closer to 22nd than they are to 4th in defensive rating. The Clippers are. So I thought that was pretty interesting. So you're going to see that number a lot, that they are 9th in the NBA defensive rating, and the Mavericks are 22nd, but the number is not that big of a difference. It's a couple of possessions here and there. And the Mavericks had an awful January that we know of. The Clippers have had injuries as well. They've dealt with a lot of stuff, but and some of it's self-inflicted. They sit guys on the second of back-to-backs all the time. Kawhi and Paul George basically don't play back-to-backs. Watch, I'll probably be wrong about that, but they do sit a lot of back-to-backs.
Kind of like Ibaka and Zupac's playing.
Net rating wise, Clippers are 2nd in the NBA, +6. Yeah, I was really wrong about that. +6.8. But at least I fact checked myself. The Mavericks were +2.3. So the Clippers were 2nd in the NBA in net rating. That's points scored per 100 possessions, points allowed per 100 possessions. The difference between the two. So that's kind of a big difference. But the Mavericks are 9th in that. They're top 10 in the NBA. So this is a really good matchup between two top 10 net rating teams, which is kind of big. So there's the offensive, like the overall what the teams are. I got some clutch numbers unless you have something else you want to get to first.
I was going to add that Kawhi and Paul George have been better together. I think that's a little bit different this season, that this is their second season together. Last year was their first season, and they when you look at their numbers together, they played 1,028 minutes together this season, a +17 net rating together, offensive rating 125, defensive rating 107. I think last year their net rating was around +13, something like that. So they're just more comfortable playing together. And yeah, they've set out different games here and there, but that's why some of these numbers, they mean something. It's like what Nick was saying, they mean something, but it's like there's a lot of things that go into it too, because they haven't played together the entire. A lot of noise in
some numbers.
Yeah, they haven't. These guys playing together are really, really good. I mean, probably the best defending duo, maybe Ben Simmons and Thibault and stuff, as far as defending wings. Yeah. But
so this season, according to Cleaning the Glass, they're +18 net rating when they're on the court. It's incredible. That's an incredible net rating for a duo. Last season they were +12.1. That's according to Cleaning the Glass, so they're a little bit different. But the big difference though is the offense. Last season when Paul George and Kawhi shared the court, according to Cleaning the Glass, 116.9 offensive rating. This season, 124.3. 124, that's a huge difference. That's an 8-point difference from last season to this season. The offense is just so much better. The way that Ty Lue has changed the offense, where guys are getting more open threes, they're getting more threes, they're not taking a ton more threes, but just the quality of looks has been so much higher. The team is a historic 3-point shooting team, and these guys are creating really good looks. Kawhi and Paul George are just shooting the lights out of the ball. And I think they have 5 or 6 guys shooting 40% from 3.
I have it noted down. They have 5 3-point shooters averaging at least 4 threes a game. That's a key when you throw out these stats. Averaging at least 4 3-point attempts a game, averaging at least 40% from 3. Then you can even add Pat Beverly on top of that. He would be the 6th because he's at 3.8 attempts per game at 39%. So he's basically there. So that gives you 6 players on your team over 40% or at 4 threes a game. That's nuts.
The Mavericks would like 4, right? Or 3.
A couple, please.
Can we just get a couple here? So those are definitely huge numbers. Clutch numbers. Remember last season the Mavericks really struggled in the clutch. This season it's been better, a lot better for the Mavericks in the clutch. They're 18-15 on the year in clutch games. That's a clutch game is defined by NBA.com as a game that's within 5 points with 5 minutes to go or less. So some of these games are, it was a 15-point lead going to the fourth quarter. The Mavericks cut it to 5, and then the other team goes on a run, and that counts as a clutch game in the last 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Some of these are literally these back and forth games where it's clutch. So there's a little noise in some of these numbers, but 18-5, that's a 10th best record in clutch games in the NBA. They had the 6th best offensive rating in the clutch in the NBA, 114.4 points per 100 possessions. Their defense, are you ready for this? The Mavericks defense in clutch game situations, 120.7. That's 29th in the NBA. Absolutely brutal. Now, you look over to the Clippers side of it, their offensive rating was 10th, and their defensive rating was 27th. So the Clippers don't defend that well in crunch time or clutch time either. So it's going to be just trading buckets, deciding whoever can hit the last shot. The Clippers in the clutch this season were 16 and 18, the 19th best record in clutch games in the NBA. So the Mavericks' record was better. The Clippers have struggled, but you kind of like that. You'd have to go back and just look up every single game. Who was playing? Was Kawhi playing? Was Paul George playing? You'd have to go through and look up all that. So there's just so much noise with it. Their net rating was minus 5.5, by the way, in clutch games. So Clippers definitely struggled in that. So Mavericks, advantage Mavericks on that one. But again, there's just so many things that you don't know about this Clippers team because not a lot of guys have played.
Exactly. And they have Kawhi. And it's like that's, as we continue on through this longer pod for you guys, throwback to our early days of Locked On Mavs when we actually had long pods before whoever our boss of Locked On Mavs is, decided to say we can't do long pods anymore. But no,
it was me.
It was Nick. Sorry.
Actually, it wasn't me at that point. It was Doug Branson. And it was actually David Locke, to be honest.
But actually,
now it's me. Now I can make the choice. This will be a long boy.
One of the things towards the end that we'll talk about, like, hey, how will the Clippers win? And this goes into kind of the clutch stuff of how the Clippers are kind of struggling. One of my main points of that is they win if Kawhi Leonard goes back to being a top 3 player in the league. And if he puts himself back into that, because I feel like he slipped down a little bit. I feel like everyone's like, in their top players in the league right now. Who's 1, who's 2.
He's doing the LeBron thing in the regular season, right? And he's also dealt with injuries. I'll talk about that a little bit later, but he's been dealing with some injuries. He's coasting. He's coasting during the regular season. Like, I've done this before. I've been here. I don't think he's interested in an MVP, right?
That's why I'm not like confident going into clutch situations saying, you know what? Their numbers Clippers have shown you throughout the season that they're not very good. They still have freaking Kawhi Leonard. So I'm not comfortable if we are in a clutch moment. We have Luka and I'm happy about that, but they have Kawhi. And so kind of equals out a little bit.
And Kawhi can do things defensively in clutch games. We've seen this from him against the Mavericks. There was one game, was it the regular season or was it the playoffs, that he just defensively destroyed the Mavericks, like their entire offense in like this 2-minute stretch, and the Mavericks lost the game just because of that 2-minute stretch. Like, he can just disrupt things in so many different ways. So all the respect to Kawhi. Yeah. And just to let you know, bud, Mavericks got some cap space this summer. So if you're looking,
Luka would be a great pairing.
If you're looking, he said he wanted guys he wanted teammates with high basketball IQs. How about one that's 22 years old? All right, you ready to get into Luka and KP on-off numbers?
Oh, you have those numbers too.
Oh, I'm ready.
I was ready for you to go into key matchups. We still have like 4 categories, but okay.
I know. I'm telling you, this is gonna be a long boy.
Hey, Barb, we're gonna be another like 30 minutes.
Intern, we're gonna be long on this one, so you're ready to edit.
We'll give you another couple hours. We'll
yeah, we'll add some hours. Oh, the college won't allow you to. We've been tracking this all season. When Luka and KP play together when they're on the court, when Luka is on the court and KP is off the court, and then when KP is on the court and Luka is off the court. Basically, which star is playing? Both, one, or or the other. Basically, we've been tracking this all season. Their net rating, again, that's points scored per 100 possessions, points allowed per 100 possessions. Basically, an efficiency type rating. So back February 11th. Actually, I can put these numbers up. Actually, I think.
Ooh, cool.
Back February 11th.
Don't y'all like the new white background, by the way? Cool touch, Nick.
It's pretty great. Back on February 11th, this is so small.
Reading a phone? Is that a CVS?
That did not work. All right, I'm just gonna say them out. Back February 11th, when Luka and KP shared the floor, they were basically +1, so they're positive. They're positive in net rating. When Luka was on and KP was off, there was it was negative 0.5, so they were not that great. And when KP was on and Luka was off, negative 21.5. The Mavericks were awful when it was just KP and
Luka was off. That's not very good, guys.
I
don't know if you just didn't hear
Negative 21 is terrible. Absolutely bad. So they were so bad. So a month later, March 10th, the numbers with Luka and KP on and Luka on and KP off, about the same. A little slightly positive. So that was decent. The Mavericks just went through a terrible stretch in January. They were coming out of it. They were getting everybody healthy. Guys were coming back from COVID. With KP on and Luka off on March 10th, -8 net rating. So it got a lot better. Went from -21 to -8. So it improved a lot over that month from February to March. And that's a cumulative rating. So it's not just the month of March, not just the month of February. And April 16th, so a month later after that, it finally got to a positive when KP was on and Luka was off. +1. Finally got to a positive. That's huge for the Mavericks when they need to be winning those minutes when Luka's off the court and KP is on. Now, the other big thing that happened, the Mavericks went on a little bit of a run there, March and April. And when Luka and KP were on, it was a positive 3.6. So when those two played together, it became positive, and a pretty decent positive there. Fast forward to the end of the season, May 18th, that number actually went down. So it went to +2 when Luka and KP shared the court. So their net rating together actually got worse. And when KP was on and Luka was off, it stayed positive. The number that went up was when Luka was on and KP was off, +4.5. So if you're tracking this and trying to follow all these numbers, basically,
that's what I'm trying to do.
Basically, when KP is on the floor and Luka is off, the Mavericks started off the season awful and have gotten progressively to the point now where it's a slight positive or it's equal. If the Mavericks can zero out those times and zero out those minutes, and it can just be honestly a net negative, or a net zero, that's okay for the Mavericks. I think the Mavericks can survive that because when Luka is on and KP is off, that's a +5. That's big, and that got better throughout the season too. It started as a negative, slight positive, then +2, now +5 as the season is done. So that is something we've been tracking a lot. And the reason why that matters is Luka has to rest at some point, and who's going to be out there? Who's going to be running the offense? It's probably going to be KP.
Brunson.
They're probably going to put Brunson with KP and probably Tim Hardaway, and they're going to be trying to run it that way. They've had some actual success with Brunson, Hardaway, Richardson, and then Porzingis, and then whoever else, Maxey or whoever. They try to support him.
Not the water bugs.
Try to support him as much as they can. So all those numbers aside, that's definitely something to watch. The minutes when KP plays without Luka, they've become a positive, but we'll see and track it because I have the numbers from last season in the playoffs. Now it's small sample size theater, obviously, in these, but when Luka and KP were on the court playing the Clippers last year, which was only 121 possessions. Like, that is so minuscule. That's so small. These guys did not play a lot together against the Clippers at all. -14 net rating when Luka and KP shared the court against the Clippers last year. That is...
And if I'm not mistaken, 0 fourth quarter minutes, right?
0 fourth quarter minutes between the two of them shared. So
yeah,
that's
because
huge.
the Porzingis ejection, Luka's rolls his
injury in game 3.
ankle, and then KP was out. Wild.
Absolutely wild. When Luka was on and KP was off, -8 net rating. That was basically game 3, game 4, 5, and 6 added a lot to that. What was it? Game 1 added a lot to that. When KP was on and Luka was off last season in the playoff series with the Clippers, 86 possessions, very small sample size theater.
Yeah.
Very small sample size. +13 net rating for the Mavericks. The Mavericks destroyed the minutes when KP was on and Luka was off.
Is that when Trey Burke was on?
And when Bubble Burke was on in the playoffs last year against the Clippers. Now, KP went on a pretty good run in the fourth quarter when Luka was out with that injury in game 3. That probably had a lot to do with this number. But it is positive, and the Mavericks need that again because the Clippers really struggle when their starters are out too. Like their backups, Luke Kennard, awful on defense, right? Like really, really struggled. They've struggled when some of their guys come off the bench. Patrick Beverley may come off the bench, and so that's going to be really interesting to see that number and how they basically survive or how they thrive with those two on. So there you go. Yeah. Bunch of numbers, but that's the
I don't
big
have
thing
anything to add to that. That was great.
All right, key matchups for the Mavericks. Luka versus everybody. This Clippers team has so many wing defenders. They're just going to keep throwing them and throwing them and throwing them at them, right? Last year we saw a lot of Marcus Morris. Obviously the infamous, Marcus Morris stepping on the heel of Luka, which is just like how on the nose can it be? Marcus Morris makes a heel turn And maybe he didn't make a heel turn. He was probably already there in his career, but
he apologized.
Makes the heel turn by stepping on the heel of Luka. But they're going to throw Morris at him. Batum, I think, is probably going to have a lot of time on him.
Yeah. Batum was annoying the last time they played. He tried to get really – I'm fully expecting – I think we could see Nick Batum on him early, and he's going to be physical. Yep. He's going to pick him up like full court. I expect that.
Yep. They're going to do Jordan rules on Luka, right? Like they're going to try to beat him up. They're going to try to trap him a lot, I think. They're going to try a lot of stuff. They can throw Paul George and Kawhi on him. I think Kawhi is going to guard him probably in crunch time.
End of game, yeah. Well, actually, I think Paul George guards him at the end. I think Kawhi will stay on KP.
And they they like to have guys that aren't necessarily Kawhi and Paul George, the two best defenders, on some of these guys like Luka, because then Kawhi and Paul George come over to help. Because Luka has so many screens, basically the guy guarding him doesn't matter a lot of the time. It's always these switches. We mentioned before, they're going to switch on Reggie Jackson a lot, and so a lot of times the guy guarding isn't going to matter. But Luka's going to have a lot of defenders up in his grill, and it's going to be big.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. He's kind of like the Jon Snow, Jon Snow meme a little bit of.
Is he coming back to life?
No,
I don't want it. That's my queen.
Pulling out the sword, and he's going to take them all on. And the crazy thing about it is he's shown that he can take them all on. Like, this is the team this is the perfect team to be built to guard Luka. If Kawhi, Paul George, and all these guys, and I mean, if you want to talk about the bubble last year, he proved it. You want to talk about this season, the last two games against the Clippers, he had 42 one game. He had a 28-point triple-double in another game. So, like, Luka is fine. So, yeah.
He is fine. The other thing that's really going to matter, Kawhi versus question mark, Maxey or Dorian. Carlisle kind of commented on it today that Maxey did spend a lot of time last season guarding Kawhi, and Dorian will probably get some of that, especially if Maxey is not 100% healthy. At the top of the show, we talked about the update for Maxey, and so Kawhi versus either of those two is going to be huge because he's going to get his buckets, right? We're not going to say either of those guys are going to shut him down in any sense of the word, but can they make it hard for him? Can they slow it down? Can they get him to bait him into trying to become the offense himself, right? Can they do some of that kind of stuff with him? Probably not, but if they do, then that's a win for the Mavericks, we think.
You froze on me, so I didn't hear the last part of your sentence.
Paul George versus Josh Richardson and Dorian, I think is also a pretty big matchup. He's going to be guarded by one of the two. Is it Richardson that starts? Is it Dorian that starts on him? If Maxey does start the game, Maxey may start on Kawhi and then Dorian on Paul George. But Maxey's coming back from an Achilles. He may not be 100% ready to guard somebody like Kawhi. So it could be Josh Richardson getting the start on Paul George. Or could it be Tim Hardaway on Paul George?
I was going to say, Tim Hardaway's the one I'm looking at saying, how is he going to be defensively in this series? Like, I think I understand what KP is going to be. KP has struggled at times just to move out and defend the three-point line and all of that. I'm curious about Tim Hardaway because they like his offense in the starting unit. And if they start him, he's going to have to probably guard Paul George, and he's probably going to have to chase him around some. And that they're going to put Luka guarding Nick Batum probably, or Morris, but. We've
seen them put Luka on some wings though in crunch time, like as a defender. So
crunch time, I could see Luka. Yeah, I could see Luka.
Crazy to say, but
throughout the game, it all depends. It goes back to that lineup, stuff that we're still trying to figure out. If they start Dwight, KP, and Tim Hardaway, I mean, one of those guys is guarding Paul George. So
and it ain't KP.
Because I don't think Luka is going to chase him around, but. Yeah, that's them. Who guards KP? Kawhi got a lot of that matchup, but who can they? Here's the better way to ask that question: who can they get away with guarding KP? And because that's the thing. Sometimes we've seen throughout the season, we've seen a Portland throw Derrick Jones Jr. We've seen some other teams throw these a Mo Harkless against KP, and they get away with it. They win a basketball game with that. So whoever guards KP, if it's not Kawhi. Which I expect Kawhi at a decent amount of time to guard him.
Probably Zoo to start the game too.
True. I don't know. I actually don't know. I think Zoo guards Dorian. I think they'll have somebody that
they'll do that like the Jazz do.
Yeah, I think they'll do that because I don't know if they're going to want KP, him trying to close out on KP from 30 feet and all of that. But that's a match I want to see who guards KP in this series.
Because if Kawhi does, I mean. He's going to do great. He's not gonna KP's not gonna have a good game. Basically, Kawhi's a good defender, and
he'll get some threes, but it's that mid range, it's the turnaround that Kawhi just knows how to play defense, and I think he'll get a few buckets, but it's not like I don't expect KP to go off for 38 against Kawhi.
And KP's game is all about positioning. Where can he get on the court? Kawhi will not let you
and
get
Kawhi knows that.
to anywhere, right? He will not let you get to those spots. Zubac versus Dwight, KP, Willie Cauley-Stein, Boban, anybody. That's going to be a huge matchup because he has killed the Mavericks. He has been the Mavericks are really great in the pick and roll on offense. On defense, they're absolutely brutal. Just really struggle in that area. So guarding Zoo and trying to stop him on the boards and on the pick and roll with scoring. Him and Kawhi have a little bit of chemistry here, and so if those two guys start going, then it could be really tough for the Mavericks.
For sure, 100%. And speaking of that, going into the next category, if you're ready for that, do you have another matchup?
I have a bunch more matchups. I'll just get through them quickly. Ty Lue versus Rick Carlisle. That's a huge matchup, I think. The Mavericks have to own that. Carlisle has to do everything right, I think, in this series. He has to make all the right adjustments. He has to react to everything Ty Lue does. He has to be way better than Ty Lue in this series for the Mavericks to win. And I think that has to be a big deal. Ty Lue has won a championship. He won it with LeBron. Is he a great in-game coach? I'm not sure.
What adjustments happen? This is one of my favorite things about the playoffs. I love it. I love game 2, game 3. Who changes first? Who makes the adjustment first? I love seeing that.
I also said Paul George versus Playoff P. That's a huge matchup, man. Which one are you going to get? Jekyll versus Hyde. Who are you going to get in this series? Meme. Because we saw Playoff P against the Mavs last year, and that's kind of why the Mavericks had a chance. Is because Paul George just wasn't giving them a lot, and it wasn't. It was. We could also see one of the reasons why Maxey was on Kawhi is because they put Dorian on Paul George because he does pretty well on wings, and so they wanted that matchup to be solidified. And it really worked for him. The other thing is Paul George has been dealing with some injuries. He has the shoulder things that he's been dealing with that, for a while now. He had surgery on those. He's also dealing with this toe injury now that the Clippers guys are trying to explain to me. And it's basically just he always will have toe pain, and it will just never go away. And so it's just this constant toe situation. So is that going to bother him? Is he going to deal with? He's going to deal with that the whole series, I guess.
You think he'll ever be healthy again?
He probably will not be 100% healthy ever again.
Man, it's like another guy in LA.
Kawhi Leonard versus his own body. That's another matchup too. Kawhi Leonard has had a foot injury that he's been dealing with all season. 2 months ago, he said, "I've been just playing through this foot injury and this foot pain." And he's still dealing with it. It's one of the reasons why he's sitting back-to-backs. He also is now dealing with this random left hand issue that's kind of undefined. And so he's been nicked up and he has some issues. I don't think it's going to hold him back too much, but if he aggravates it, that's a pretty big loss. That's a huge loss for this Clippers team. So sure. Kawhi versus his own body, I think, is another thing. Key storylines, we've kind of already gone through a lot of these, and some of the matchups sort of go through the storylines. Do you have any more that we haven't really got to yet?
I have a different one. Who wins the battle of the supporting cast? Yeah. You take Paul George and Kawhi out. You take KP and Luka. Who wins that battle? It's the Brunson, Dorian, Tim Hardaway, Dwight Powell versus Zubac, Ibaka, Marcus Morris, Reggie Jackson. Will there be a massive guy who steps up? Will it be a Tim Hardaway who steps up and averages 25 this series? And you're like, wow, he helped swing that whole series. Will it be a playoff Rondo who helps swing a series? It's that. So that's the type of. Will it be a Jalen Brunson? Will it be Marcus Morris hitting 4 threes a game? Yeah. Like, who's going to be that guy? Which supporting cast? Will Zubac averaging 20 and 12 swing the series? Like, that's I'm watching both of them, or both the supporting cast, of who wins out that.
That is going to be absolutely huge. And that sort of goes back to my KP on the floor, Luka off the floor minutes too. Who's going to win? Because that's a lot of supporting players making some plays there. All right, let's finish it off with this. Why will the Clippers win this series? I think let's start there. Clippers are favored. ESPN released their picks for all the writers. They do like 12 writers or so that make picks, or 15 I think they did this year, and it was 14-1. One writer picked the Mavericks to win the series, and that was Royce Young. And famously, Royce Young did not vote for Luka Rookie of the Year. So if you want to go back, he's grown a lot. Royce Young has grown a lot since then. But Why will the Clippers win the series? They're favored. And Mavericks are kind of playing with house money a little bit here if they win, but Clippers win if they hit a bunch of threes. Basically, the Mavericks don't hit their threes, and if everything goes as planned for the Clippers, basically, right?
Yeah. I mean, I alluded to it earlier, but I think they win this series if Kawhi steps into it and says, "I'm a top 3 player in the league. Like this is who I am. I've been saving this. Let me take over at the end of the games, not only offensively, but defensively too." I think they win this series. They were the number 1 3-point shooting team in the league, and there's a reason for that. We talked all about that. If they shot 42% as a team this season, which is literally historic type of season shooting from behind the arc. If they go into this series and shoot 45% from 3 as a team, like that's a good recipe to win a series. And if they can develop a game plan that they haven't done it so far or did it so far with Luka, but if they can develop some type of game plan to limit Luka, I would get worried. And I don't think this is a series that Luka can average 25. Like Luka needs to average around 30 this series, and probably a 30, 30-10-10 type of thing, or more than that. And Luka's capable of that, and in a weird way, we're expecting that. So, but if they can develop some type of game plan, or if they truly do from the opening tip, send 2 guys at him and just say, we're going to dare other people on this team, and I don't care if he makes the perfect pass every time, we're going to make other people beat us in this series. That's the stuff that I think could lead to a Clippers win.
And then on the flip side, why will the Mavericks win? It's a little bit more of a complicated question, but if they can't slow down Luka and the rolling of Dwight and Willie, I think if that makes a big difference from last season to this season, I think that's going to be huge.
Fully
and
healthy KP for the whole series, yeah.
KP plays the whole series and gives them 20 a game, right? Just give him 20. That's all you kind of need is a baseline. If you can just give him that and be pretty efficient, hit some threes. The Mavericks also have to hit their threes. They have to. They just do not win games unless they're shooting, and hitting, 35, 36% of their threes or 40.
Yeah.
And they have to hit them.
And my number 1 word, I wrote one huge word, and I wrote a couple KP and like keeping the Clippers, because it's also a weird thing about the Clippers on the free throw line. They're number 1 in the league as far as free throw percentage, but they're 28th in the league in free throw attempts per game because they shoot so many 3-pointers a game. So, but it's also this, hey, if you want to eliminate the threes, you dare them to drive. Well, if they get to the line, they're really good at making their free throws too. So it's like this give and take. But the number 1 word I wrote down was effort. This team hasn't had the best reputation this season as far as effort. There's been games where dang, they just didn't give a crap tonight. And if they go into this series and they play pissed off and they go into it saying, we want to be the better team. We want to show them that we would have beat them last year fully healthy. We want to get that revenge. We want to talk that smack back to them. We want to show from the opening tip in game 1, and they have that passion. We've seen that at times from this Mavericks team, that they're everywhere on the court. It's like everyone's Josh Green, like the energy's everywhere. They're fired up. They're all playing together. If they can harness that into one ball of energy, and that is who they are, and that effort and that fire is in that team from the opening tip, I think that's the number 1 thing that will lead to them winning the series if they give that effort 100% of the time.
There you go. That's why the Mavs will win, why the Clippers will win. That's a whole bunch of stuff. Pretty much everything you need for this series. We'll have more stuff. We'll hear from the Locked On Clippers guys. I'll do a crossover with them. That should be really good. We'll also play a little bit of a clip of basically them breaking down their team in a similar way that we have. So there you go. We'll be back with more all the rest of the week, going straight through to the game on Saturday. Guys, thanks so much for listening to Locked On Mavs.
Peace out.
Boom.